Okay, this is going to be the tutorial number 2 for the Medieval Castles of Europe course. We are going to create a spiral staircase within a square tower. As you can kind of see, I think even from this example that you see on the screen, there are some things I didn't really bother to add. There's some bells and whistles. One particular thing that doesn't make a ton of sense is that there isn't a doorway on the bottom. I just didn't bother to model that. That's not part of the tutorial. The other thing about these towers also is, from a historical perspective, we don't necessarily always have them. It's not really all that common that they would actually have a doorway on the first floor. They might actually have a doorway on the second or third. But for the purposes of learning the software, I thought it was okay, really, just to show you guys how to build a spiral staircase and how to use some of the additional tools. In the previous tutorial, you all were doing a lot of sketching. In this tutorial, you're going to be working a lot more with bodies. So it's going to be essential that you remember to name objects after you create them. Be careful about when you're using the different tools for cutting and things like that, that you don't accidentally leave it on join, because two bodies will join together as a default pretty easily. You can always go back in your history. You can see the history bar here. Um, to better understand how that works. So let's, without kind of further ado here, let's have a look at what I've set up for you. So if you go back to your main project, what I've done is I've created a tutorials folder just to keep things cleaner. So right here, I've created another folder just called tutorial 2. So you can create it there. If I wanted to move one of these objects, one of these designs into that folder, I could just right click and hit move. So for instance, I could create another folder called um, tutorial 1. And since I have a bunch of different designs that I did, because I've done this a few different times, I can move them into tutorials and then tutorial 1 like this. Okay, so all those are going to go in there. So let's just start from here. I'm going to create a new design. So I'm going to go File, New Design. And I'm just going to immediately save this. So at step 1, I'm going to say triplet tutorial, or you could call it lab 2. Let's do tutorial 2, because I already have something called lab 2. Okay, so here we are. We're going to start. I'm going to hold down shift and kind of change my view a little bit. Make sure that this top is spelled top here, so I know where I'm drawing. That's the text is correctly oriented. I'm going to create a new sketch. I'm going to put it on the bottom. Okay, so on that XZ plane, the red and the blue. And I'm going to create a quick 2-point rectangle to give myself a foundation, and that's going to be 8 meters by 8 meters. Okay, so that's easy. The next thing I want to do is find the dead center of that square, and that's quite easy to do. We just grab the line tool, and we're just going to do 2 quick lines across. And these are going to be construction lines, so I'm going to hold down shift, select both of these, and then hit X. Okay, so now we can tell those are construction lines because I'm grabbing the entire square as I hover over it. The next thing I want to do is create the inside of the sort of inside shaft of the spiral staircase. And I'm going to start, fortunately, because I've done these 2 crosses, I can find the dead center there. And I'm going to go from here out with the, it's called the center diameter circle. And I'm going to make it a diameter of 5.75, I think. Double check my notes quickly here. I think we should be 5.75. So making sure that you're following along. We've got our interior space, and now we're going to want to create another circle on the inside here that's just going to be a perfect column, and that one will be smaller. That's only going to be 1 meter in diameter. Okay. So now the next thing what we want to do, working towards the end of step 2 here, is we're going to draw a line right to the center of this line here, from the center right there. And these are actually going to be, these aren't going to be construction lines, so they can stay solid. The next thing I want to do is actually make something like that's right at the halfway point between here and here. So there's a few ways I can do that. I could have drawn a line from here to here and then made sure that this was in the center. But rather than do that, I'm going to put this just about anywhere. I'm going to turn off my snap to grid really quickly just so I can just put it anywhere collinear with this. And if I notice that this has to be at the midpoint, this line has to be constrained to here. So if I select both of these and then hit the D key, okay, I can then change the degrees between them. So I'm going to say halfway to 45 degrees, 22.5 degrees. And that's going to give me the wedge that's exactly a quarter. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, good. So let's draw the out to this corner as well, because we're going to need two of these stairs essentially at a time, and you'll understand why just a moment. Okay, so we can finish that sketch in just a moment. What I'd like to do is give myself a few points that I can pull out, and this will make sense in a moment. But I want to just add a few points here as things that I can snap to later and project. So that's just under create and point. I can't remember how many I need or what I need, but so I'll just sort of throw a few out there. It doesn't really take much space to do that. And I'm going to hit finish sketch. And then now I can hit shift and change my view a bit. And I can see there's all those points, all the lines. I'm going to hold down shift and pick up both of these two wedges. And I'm going to extrude them up 0.2 meters, which is maybe 8 inches high, around there. Okay, and one thing that you may notice when you first create your first body through an extrude tool or something like that, I'm going to call this one stair. All I've got. So just double click it slowly to rename it. You double click it quickly, you'll go into the body or into the sketch. So this sketch, I want to name that to call this base. Okay, so with this one stair step, what I want to do is cut a wedge out of the stair itself so that when I stack these things on top of each other, they have like a nice kind of sloping roof rather than sort of a jagged ceiling, I should say, not a roof, the ceiling above. And I'm going to need a few different places. Since these are curved lines here, or curved planes, they're not really planes if they're curved, but these are curved surfaces here. I can't actually draw directly on them. So I need to create some planes directly there. So you're gonna notice that with these bodies that it turns your base sketch off initially, so you might want to turn that back on. And the first thing I want to do, and this is a little bit confusing because it didn't used to work this way, but you need to project anything that you want to snap to in order to create planes right here. You're going to need to do some snapping on it. Or after you've created your planes, in order to sort of draw and snap directly to things that are not on the same sketch that you're on, you need to project them. So let's really quickly go and create a plane through 3 points, which is right here, and you could also see it right there. And the 3 points I want are 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, so you can select them, no problem. But you'll notice here that if I go into this and I create, which is what I want to do, I want to create a sketch directly on there. You can see these are grayed out. As I try, so you can select them, no problem, but you can't actually snap to them. Seeing nothing is snapping there. Okay, the only thing that'll snap is that origin. So what I want to do is I want to select each of these that I need. These 3 points are really all I need. I'm going to go to create and project, include project, or just hit the P key. Okay, so I want to project from the origin as well. Okay, so now those points have been projected. And I'm going to use a line and just draw a very quick little triangle right. And that's it for that sketch. That's easy. Okay, let's do another sketch over here because we want that triangle wedge to get bigger as it goes away. So I'm going to create another plane through 3 points. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to select that plane. I'm going to create a sketch on that plane. Okay, so to make sure I know what it is I'm trying to grab, I'm going to hold down Shift and change my view just a little bit. And I want to select this point and this point, hit the P key, and I'm going to project them onto my surface. I'll do this one. Okay, and then I'm just going to draw another quick little triangle right here. 1, 2, 3. Good. Okay, and I'm going to finish the sketch on that one. So one quick thing I want to do is I want to create an object that I'm going to use as a tool body to cut out of this particular stair. So what I want to do is just turn the stair off temporarily and just work from these two points. So the tool that you're going to learn here is called Loft, which I really like. You click on Loft right here. You can click on two profiles, and then it will loft in between them. Isn't that slick? Okay, so it's going to give you a nice piece that you can cut out. And I'm going to keep this as a new body for sure. Hit OK. Okay, and this is going to be called a wedge. It's not going to last for very long. But what I want to do with that wedge is before I turn the stair back on, see, I made it invisible again. I need to make sure that at the edge of this wedge goes all the way through, or else I'll have this funny little piece still in the stair, because you can see the stair goes out, curves around there. So I want to just pull it a little bit further. So instead of using the extrude tool, I'm going to select this one face, and I'm going to say press pull. Okay, press pull works very similar to extrude, but you can't taper it. But it does do this added thing where it gets to continue the shape where it had already begun. So it's going to keep getting bigger as it goes out. And that's way too far. I mean, I don't really need it to go that far, just to the outside of the circle. Hit OK. All right, so now I've got my two objects. I'm going to turn on the stair. You can see here's the wedge. Okay, so I'm going to go and use another new tool for us, which is the combine tool. And with the combine tool selected, I'm going to say that's the target body is the stair, and the tool body is going to be the wedge. Okay, and instead of a join, I'm going to do a cut. And you can tell that it's cutting because it's turned red. And I'm going to hit OK. The wedge disappears as a result because it's a cutting tool. So now I'm only left with a stair that has this one useful little cutout of it. All right, so the next thing that we want to do, I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to grab center here. And we're going to raise up this column because it's going to create a few different tools for us that we. I'm going to extrude it up, make sure that it's not a join, that it's a new body. And this sort of central shaft is going to be 13 meters high. Okay, so one interesting trick, if you ever create a cylinder that is a perfect cylinder, okay, so extruding a perfect circle, you're always able to create a new kind of construction object that we haven't used called an axis. So I'm going to say an axis through a cylinder, and then select this outer ring, and you can see it gives me this nice little guide. We're going to use this several times. It's very useful. All right. So the next step for us is we're going to be creating a pattern of stairs going around this. One thing I really, really wish that Fusion 360 would do is allow you to incrementally change the positioning of a pattern. So say like make it go up a certain amount for every copy. I do not know why they have not added that feature yet, because as you'll see in just a second, the way that I use, and there may be a better way to do this, the way that I use is a little bit kind of manual, but we'll work through it. Okay, so let's hit stair, and I'm going to close this up to give myself some more space. So right here under stair, I'm going to create some copies of it, and I want a circular pattern. I'm going to go down to create pattern, circular pattern. And the axis that I have the object that I want already selected. The axis that I want is going to be this axis. And you can see that it's already creating 3 copies of that just as a default. If I bump that up to 16, will know. I can remember that simply because I know that I had 4 stairs per quarter. So that's easy to do. But of course, they're not going up as they go. So what I want to do really quickly here, and you can maybe press fast forward if you like. I'm going to take the first stair that's marked as stair number 1, and I'm going to align it. Okay, that basically means to make things flush with each other. And I'm going to click the align tool, and I'm going to say, I want the bottom of this to be the same place as the top of that. Okay, and that's going to push this one piece up. Okay, and I'm going to hit OK. Once I've done a particular tool one time, I can just hold down right click, say repeat align, and I'm just going to keep changing my view. Look underneath, click once, look above, click a second time, hit OK. Okay, and as I said, I'm going to be quiet for a moment and just repeat this. So like a lot of practice there. Okay, so that's it, I guess. Should be a better way to do that, but that's how we're doing it for now. It's a little repetitive. I'm going to select all of my stairs now and hit Control to get this last one. And I'm going to create a single body out of them. I'm going to use the Combine tool for that again. And this time, instead of a cut, I'm going to do a join. And it's going to be good. 16 pieces all kept together. And now that that's called stair 1, let's call it staircase 1. Or just staircase. Okay, so that's an entire set of stairs. So the next thing that we want to do is just repeat that. We're going to take these stairs and we're going to make another copy of them going straight, a few more copies of them going straight up. This is a different kind of pattern. We're going to go to a rectangular pattern. And the direction we want, again, is that axis. And as I pull this up, you're going to see if I go to 4, the magic number, I've already done the math for you, is 9.6 meters. And that gets you to the top with every set of stairs being one. Yep, one on top of the other. Good. All right, so let's move to the next thing. I want to raise up the walls because we still haven't done that. So we have some square walls that we're going to pull up. So for that, we're going to need our sketches back, particularly the base sketch. So I'm going to select these pieces here and do a quick extrude. I'm going to pull this up, and our height is going to be 13 meters for that. Right. Make sure that's not underjoined. Make sure that this is a new body and hit OK. Good. All right, so now we want to do some additional walls out here. We're going to do some things on the top of the building that we haven't done on the bottom. So let's just create a new sketch on top of this plane right here. Select the plane first. We're going to do a number of things. I'm going to grab this circle and I'm going to just offset it so that I get a nice clean line there. And this is going to be a very thin wall. So just 0.25, I say very thin, it's thin, a thin wall. 0.25 meters. From there, I think I can just sort of skip this next step. Well, let's do it in order that it is in the diagram. So now that we have this ring here, I'm going to create another new body. I'm going to extrude this up, and I'm going to pull this up. Looks like 3 meters up. Okay. All right, so we have that here. What I really want to do is create a doorway in here at the very top stair. So that's actually quite easy to do. Another construction plane you can create is what's called a tangent plane, and I've got this attached here. So for me, it's pretty clear that this is going to be about 45 degrees out. So at 45, that's if I draw a doorway here, it'll reach the top step. So that's fine for me. Maybe slightly different for yours. I'm going to select that and create a new sketch here. And I can also maybe change my view a little bit just so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to grab a 2-point rectangle. I'm going to turn my snap to grid back on. And I'll make this a 1.6 high, or 1 meter wide by 1.6 high. Just simple rectangle for the moment. Okay, so I've drawn that out. It looks like it has like a nice little lip at the, so you have to step up, which is fine. Then I can create a nice 3-point arc on top of that and just make sure that that goes tangent. Okay, so right there you can see those two. So that'll be fine. I'm gonna hit the T key and trim this piece out and then just sort of have a look. It looks like it's not really particularly well placed. So what I want to do is just double click to select everything, and let's just sort of move this. Let's move it down. And it looks like I might be losing tangency on one side, but that should be it. Just in case, let's make sure that this stays tangent. Good. All right, that's a pretty decent position. I'm going to hit Finish Sketch, and I can then select this object. Either press, pull, or extrude. I tend to use extrude for this. I'm going to push that through, and since it says cut, it's red, and I've just cut a hole, a nice doorway right there. Okay. So knowing that this is all procedural, I can go back and edit the sketch. And if I wanted to, if I thought, oh, maybe that lip was like a little bit too high, I could go and say finish sketch, and now 3D part is also like that. Okay. You might want to put a little A little guardrail right there, but I guess we're not really concerned with people accidentally turning left. Okay, good. The next thing we want to do is create, oops, sorry about that. We want to create our crenellated wall at the top, so our parapet, our Merlins, and we're going to make this machicolated example, and so we're gonna really create a floating surface first. So going back to that same, it doesn't matter. I can always go back to that same original sketch since it's on the same plane. And I'll edit that sketch quickly. So that was back here in the history, or we didn't name that sketch, but it's sketch 4. So I can call this top sketch. If I want to find it again here. Okay, so this is a little tricky. What I'm going to do is do a double offset, which you can't do. You can't offset something that's already offset. So I'm going to hold down Shift here, and I'm going to hit O, and I'm going to pull this out 0.5 meters and hit OK. Now, if I want to offset this again and hit O, I'm going to get an error. Okay, and that's because there's already a constraint that this has to be offset from that. So let me hit cancel there. I'm going to select these two symbols here and then hit the delete key. Good. And that these are still parallel, but they're not offset anymore. So now I can select the outside ring, hit O again, and make that again 0.5. Okay. So that's done. I'm going to hit finish sketch. Just going to change my view a bit. I want to make sure that that sketch, top sketch, is on because I'm going to create another wall up here. So this one's not going to be as tall because it's just the parapet wall that holds the Merlins. I'm going to hit extrude, and I'm just going to bring this up 1 meter. Okay. Good. All right. So now we also need to have Merlins holding up this floating wall. So I'm going to select this surface here. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. I'm going to hit create sketch, and I'm going to draw a Merlin right here. And a Merlin can be really any shape. I'll let you guys kind of decide. I do want you all to try to make it kind of rounded if you can. So I'm gonna create sort of a, oh, I don't know, like a stair step pattern here, something along these lines, and that'll have to do. Okay. The tool that I want you all to use to round things off is the fillet tool. So I'm gonna grab that, pull this in until I'm kind of eyeballed it, maybe 0.35. And that way I can do it to all three of these. Well, at least those two. Go back to 5 maybe, and do it to all three. Sketch. So now I've got a nice object here. I want to just trim this out. So I'm going to hit the T key and just trim these pieces. Okay, good. I'm going to finish that sketch. Select the sketch that you drew. And you're going to want to extrude this back and create a new body. So this one is going to be 0.5, negative 0.5, actually. And instead of a join, we're going to create a new body out of that. I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to name this one Merlin. And this body, the parapet, really a parapet wall, and then this one can be here. Ox. Very guilty. Not a Merlin. This is a Corbel, so not a Merlin. Merlins we will do next. So this Corbel, we want to create a pattern out of those. We're going to use two different pattern tools for this. So I'm going to select that Corbel, hit pattern, rectangular pattern. My direction will be any one of these lines here, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to select this one. And if you pull this out, you can kind of visualize what you're looking for. I've done the math already, so at negative 7.5, you can do, well, let's do 8. Look what your I believe. Yeah, we're going to create 8 of those to give it just about equally spaced. Okay, good. Nice. Okay, so I've got a whole bunch of corbels here. I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to create another pattern. And this one is going to be sort of surprising. I'm going to create a circular pattern out of these. My axis will be here. And our quantity will not be 16, it will be 4. So we're going to do 4 sides all along the same space here. Okay, and I'll hit OK there. All right, so now we have lots and lots of corbels. Let's add a Merlin on top of here. That's going to be another new tool. We're going to go to Create. And instead of actually drawing a sketch first, we can just create a simple box right on top of that wall. I'll go, let's make it 1 by 1 by 0.5. 0.5 is fine. Hit tab and say 1. And our height will be 1. So one thing I forgot to do, again, really, it was moving too fast. I'm going to hit Edit Feature in the history, and I want to make sure that that is not a join, that it's a new body. Okay, and then you might have an idea of what I'm going to do next. It should be fairly familiar. We're going to name this Merlin. We're going to create a pattern, set the direction. Okay, at 9 meters, we're going to create 6 copies. Hit enter. Okay. So now that we've created these Merlins here, I'm going to shift select all of those, and I'll create another pattern, and this should be obvious what I'm about to do here. We have 4, and we're ready to go. Okay, so something that I don't really love about this process is the way that it creates some interior faces here. I don't really, it just sort of aesthetically bothers me a bit. So you can attach all of these objects to each other, or just kind of do a handful, and make sure that this is set to join. And anything that's touching each other is going to be object. Okay, so now all of those are kind of corner points rather than just being 2 objects kind of embedded with each other. That's me just being particular. Okay, so your homework for this project, for this tutorial, is somewhere in here. I would like you all to create some arrow loops. They can be on the stairs, which is a common place to do it. Maybe potentially for flanking fire on either side. If you imagine, maybe the wall gets attached this way and this way. You might have some arrow loops there and there. They can actually be inside of the corbels themselves. That's also a common thing. Just have some fun with that. And my advice to you is to use the combine tool, and instead of thinking about it as a join, think about it as a cut. You're going to cut the empty space of that hole that you're going to cut out, make it a volume, and then remove that volume from the walls. That's kind of my hint for that. So that's it. I'm looking forward to seeing you all work on this and see how you do. We've covered quite a lot. We've covered aligning. We've used a few different tools, including the Loft, the Combine tool. We've created lots of new construction planes. We've created a new axis, lots of stuff to talk about. And of course, the last thing to do is to say, give yourself a little bit of information when you hit save. And I'm just going to say finished parapet. And that's the last thing that I did. Okay, so that's it. Looking forward to seeing you all soon.